everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Backyard Horse Enthusiast. Today's special guest is Kelly Dukarski from A Wild Omen. Hey, Kelly. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us today. We are so happy to have you here sharing with our viewers all about your journey. And I want to begin by delving into your background and how you got started with horses and how that led you on this journey into the work that you are currently doing and have been doing.
Okay, we're jumping right in.
We are right in, but
Jumping
we
right in.
tell us where you're from, where your practice is as well.
Okay. So, I'm located in Massachusetts in a little town called West Newbury. It's on the northern, it's a coastal town and it's north of Boston, on the north coast of Boston, or of Massachusetts. I apologize, north of Boston. And I have a small farm here with 5 horses. I share it with 5 horses. Um, yeah, and the area is, I guess I would say it's historical. The property here that I live on is 300 years old. So I think it holds a lot of magic, right? There's a lot here on this land that it has to offer. And it's a great opportunity to bring people out and have a really beautiful experience with the horses.
How long
I,
have
yeah.
how long have
So,
you resided there?
it's been 20 years now. I've had this farm for 20 years. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah. And I really love it. It's evolved and we've always had horses on it. In fact, I think they were the first thing that arrived here. I couldn't wait to get them here. But really my relationship evolved with my horses after I brought them home. I have had horses my entire life, but there was something about bringing them here and having them home with me that changed our relationship and continued to change our relationship and um, evolve into what it is now, really. Um, I think as a horsewoman, we're always learning and we're always putting the pieces together to do better for not only the horses, but for ourselves. That's the hope anyway, I think, is that we're moving in that direction. So it was a great opportunity to settle in and get comfortable in this place and yeah, see what came up with my horses and our relationship. So it was good.
What stands out for you from I'm going to assume that you were what prior to having this property, were you boarding your horses somewhere? Is
I Yeah, I boarded horses and to be honest, I I ended up renting farms because I wanted to be involved in the care of my horse. So I found farms that I rented and pulled people together for like co-op situations. And it worked out really well doing that. And it gave me an opportunity to understand the demand, I guess, what was really involved in taking care of a horse in all aspects of taking care of a horse. And it was really great so that when I did or when I was ready to move them home to my property, I had a really good understanding of what was ahead of me. It is a life choice.
yes, yes.
you
Is
know?
you're married, yes?
Yep. Yep.
And is your husband an equine
No.
enthusiast? No. How do you get your husband on board?
If you have more than one horse, date night can be, wrapped into a horseback ride, which is really good. Yep. So I started working that angle pretty good, and it paid off for sure. He had a really great appreciation for it. I will say that as time moved on, as things evolved, in how do I say it? in our life here together, I guess. He and I, we have no children, but he and I and our animals and how we feel about this place. Um, and my I guess relationship with Gestalt, my practice of Gestalt, when that came into play, he was able to settle into this place in a way that he had never done before. And there's something I can elaborate on that, but
Please.
really it was about slowing down to appreciate it. Not that we don't appreciate it, but it was a deeper, um, yeah, it was a deeper feeling of connection that he had to it when our relationship to the animals and to this place changed a little bit. Or yeah, I'm having a hard time articulating it, but it's more about being present. It wasn't just a thing that we were doing, it was our life, and we became very present to it, and I think that changed everything.
How long
Yeah.
have you been married?
100 years. No,
Oh, that all?
I've been married, it'll be 30 years this October.
Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
no small feat.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm. Wow. And oh, how about your journey to becoming a certified Gestalt practitioner, equine Gestalt practitioner? Where did that begin for you and
Yeah.
when?
So let's see. So my career was not in Gestalt and it was not in horses. Horses were always something that were for me, like my sanctuary, my safe place, my family. And Gestalt, how do I say it? So my business was as a horticulturist, as a garden designer. And I spent all my time outside, kind of communing with nature, if you will. And so my background is in that. My background is in plants and nature and design. Um, and how I was introduced to Gestalt came really by surprise. I have a dear friend who called me up one day and asked me what I was doing in July. And I thought, what? I don't know. And this was in January, right? And she says, what are you doing in July? I don't know. Well, I do. You're coming to Montana. And I thought, well, you really don't have to twist my arm too hard to get me to go to Montana, right? Like okay, enough said.
Flights are booked. We're not even
Yeah.
on the phone yet.
And so it was going to Montana, she said, to ride horses and do this retreat. So I'm in all the way. That's all I knew. But when I got to Montana, it turned out to be a Gestalt retreat. And
Oh,
it was something that she was really into. She had followed Melissa Pierce for a really long time and was really intrigued by Gestalt. And I went thinking that, I was on an adventure riding horses in Montana. And and it was very different than that, right? It was very, very different. And yet it changed my life. That was it. You know, I I tell people that I saw horses do things that I could have never imagined. I couldn't even put words to it actually. It took me a very long time to put words to the things that I saw horses do for people in a healing capacity for people.
can you elaborate on that now for us?
Um, I saw horses hold space for people in deep pain. And interestingly enough, going on a retreat, that's not something that you think that you're going to encounter, right?
Mm,
You think
mm.
people are going on when they when you're sold a vacation someplace, they're usually billed as an escape, right? A retreat, an escape. And this wasn't that.
Mm.
This was people being very, very present to their life. and the things that were happening in their life. And I thought that that was really beautiful. It wasn't just about that space and the things that were happening to them at that time in, on this retreat. It was about, it conjured up things that were, they needed to look at. They needed to take a deeper look at. And something about the magic of the land and the horses and that space brought it out in these people to take a closer look at. So there were horses that would, in Gestalt, in Equine Gestalt, horses not only show up, but they give us clues to where people are holding their pain. So I saw horses align their chakras with the chakra points of the people that were experiencing, if someone was crying and they didn't understand why they were crying, that horse aligned their chakra, aligned their body up with that person's body. And it turned out that that person, it aligned with the deeper meaning of what that person was experiencing. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain, which is why it's so intriguing, and um yet it's undeniable, because the
Mm.
people in the presence of the horses were able to tell their story, um, to take a look at it and allow the horses to help them heal from that. No matter how big or small it seemed to them, it was holding them back in some place in their life. And instantly they were cleared or free from that.
Right.
I'd never witnessed horses do anything like that of their own free will, of their own, they weren't haltered, they weren't roped, they could show up as they wanted, as they needed to, and it was really beautiful to witness. And I think I always knew what horses did for me. When I went out, I had a day at work, I was tired, or, I just had like a bad day. When I would come home to my farm, I could instantly decompress and feel so much better about anything in the presence of a horse. And yet, what I witnessed there, I realized that, oh my gosh, this is this is what they do. This is what they do for everyone. And
Mm.
it's, I think the retreat is an opportunity to slow down. It that offered me that, an opportunity to not get out of the conditioning of having horses that I need to feed, that I need to exercise, that I need to, my to-do list with them, and allow myself to actually just be with them. And it flipped everything for me. It gave me real confidence in knowing that I could be with my horses in a way that felt good for me and not have to comply with anybody else's idea of what horses were supposed to be doing, that they needed a job, right? That they needed to be exercised. They need. You have to, you should, all that stuff went right out the window. And I was able to really honor myself in, as a horsewoman and as a gestaltist, soon to become a gestaltist, and you know, eh, someone who's just present in the world, right?
Yeah,
Like honoring that.
for sure. So you leave this retreat
Yeah,
enlightened, eyes really wide open now, understanding like that horses are often willing and definitely want that connection with human. They're not just a tool,
yeah,
right? They're not a tool. They are connection, companion, um, really the most unconditional love you can ever
yeah,
experience in life. I I speak from my own experience that I never feel judged in the presence of a horse. I suppose I would if I were not doing the right things by them. But I listen to them. as well. But tell me, when was your mind made up? When was the decision made that Kelly needs to look into this further and this is a path she's going to now embark on? How did that evolve? Was it instantaneous, like, that's it, I shall be one? No.
No,
Huh.
no, I took all that back home with me. And, when I returned home, I couldn't talk about the retreat. I couldn't because I didn't have words around it. I had an experience that I
Mm,
didn't quite have words for. And I don't think that I talked to my husband about it for 2 weeks. For days, I came home and I was really, wow, I'm telling you, it changed everything for me. It changed everything. And I had to start connecting dots and putting pieces together. And instead of saying, this is what I'm doing, I started practicing, I guess at the time, my own type of gestalt or presence with my horses. My relationship again changed in the way that I interacted with my horses. All I can describe it as like a deepening, richening that experience to the place where I slowed down and it was welcomed by my horses. And then as I it took me 2 years to decide to answer that question. It took me
okay.
2 years before I decided. And what got me to that place is, I had a very lucrative business as a garden designer. I, had this is what I had been doing for 20 years. Um, and then I there was just this thing that came over me where I think part of like one of my values is making a difference. And in the gardens, I made a difference in people's lives, I believe, because I was helping them appreciate their backyard. I was giving them an opportunity to go out and have an experience right in their backyard, to commune with nature, to be with nature, and to feel differently, right? They had a sacred place for them. And then as then when I think about Gestalt, I really the opportunity to help people feel the way that I felt coming from that retreat experience, right? The opportunity to be part of something like that was the really big pull for me. I did another retreat. I did another Gestalt retreat, not with Melissa Pierce, but with a student who I had met on Melissa's retreat. So I threw myself back into another retreat I wanted to learn more and understand more. And so I did that. And then I hired that person as a coach because I also wanted to pick the pieces apart about who I was as a garden designer, who I was as a horticulturist and herbalist. And could I um, carry that with me into a practice as a gestaltist? It was really important to me not to cut my ties with that, um, because I think it has a place
Mhm.
in people's healing as well.
Sure.
So it took me 2 years, and then 2020, January of 2020, before the world went chaotic, I was accepted to that program and jumped in. Yeah, jumped right in. Yep.
For anyone that might be curious about, embarking on this journey to become a certified equine gestaltist, would you recommend that they dip their toes in it, so to speak,
Yeah.
like you did, go to a retreat, do some one-on-one with a coach, maybe group, whatever, to, just to test the water, so to speak? I
Yeah.
like that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would highly recommend that. The program is intense. It's meant to be intense. It's meant to fish it out, have you dig deep and really take a look at yourself so that when you get in front of, a client, that you're able to really be there for them, really hold space for them, help them on their journey. And it is my belief that you cannot do that unless you've, taken a look at yourself first.
Right.
And
And
so, yeah.
Yeah, that is a prerequisite in this program that I salute Melissa for, that
Yeah.
she's not letting you graduate. You are not receiving your certification if she knows you've got your own personal stuff that needs to be worked on, you're going to work on it. And I really valued that. I think it did set us up, knowing that when we walked that stage for graduation, that we'd done due diligence. We really, you know, did the program. We
Absolutely.
were in it,
In it. You have
in
to
it.
be. You can't, there's no halfway about it. It's a program that you are immersed in completely, and you live your life that way. To practice Gestalt, again, it's a way of life. It just is. You
Absolutely.
either are or you are not. And
Absolutely.
that's my belief around it. I can't put on a Gestaltist hat and then turn around and go home.
All
It's
done.
like, no, this is what I am. This is what I do. This is what I embody.
Ah,
And that, back to your original question, I needed to be very sure. Could
mm,
I uphold that? Is that who I am? Is it? I mean, and so for me, yeah, I take it very seriously. I'm constantly learning, constantly delving into, gobble up as much knowledge as I can and have as many experiences around Gestalt as I can. Um, I think that's important to keep you in it and fresh and continuing to work on yourself, because just because you go and do the thing doesn't mean you're done. We are constant, we are constantly evolving, and we're a lot of work.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, you are not kidding. Yeah, I'm always amazed at my quest, my hunger for more knowledge, with the 20 books on my nightstand. And I'm like, oh, which one am I reading tonight? Oh my gosh. It's just being
Yeah.
immersed in it all. It's definitely a journey of awareness. And would you did you find that as you journeyed through this healing for yourself and awareness for yourself, that you had a different awareness and compassion for humanity as a whole? Did you approach
You're
humanity a little
asking.
differently?
um i I think that with that is that I do. Well, I offer this to clients and I practice it myself. So this is the best way that I can give you a good answer on that, is that we're faced with so many challenges every day, all day. We run across all different types of people, and people can show us an act of kindness, or we might get part of their bad day sent our way, like whatever it is. And now I'm able to just not take it personally. And I think that's a big component to this. You get to have all your feelings. You get to be that way. And I'm just not going to take it personally. And giving it back to them and is a way of me understanding. And it also, when I'm in the presence of someone, it kind of takes the wind out of it. It diffuses the situation, because I'm not giving fuel to their fire anymore. I'm not, and I take myself right out of that equation. I'm not part of that.
Beautifully said. And I I second that. I have found, I don't know if you're aware, but I conduct numerous inner child healing groups online with people around
Okay.
the world. And what their awareness now is that they don't approach life as victims. They're no longer triggered. Their inner child isn't triggered, so that inner child doesn't pop up and say, let me drive, I got the, you idiot, you know what I mean? And like you
Yeah.
said, and that is exactly verbatim what I have said to them. When your inner child isn't popping up triggered, you don't, when you encounter someone who's definitely who their inner child is driving the
Yeah.
bus, and they say, you don't throw the fuel on that fire.
Yeah.
Instead, you have an awareness because you're not a victim any longer. You just look at them and you go, oh, well, there's an adult child, and not in a icky way, but just an
Someone
awareness.
behaving badly or someone, doing something. I'm not, I don't give it time. I don't have, yeah. And, I notice how friendships or family, right? I once interacted with them in a way that really we could go for it. We could really ignite the situation. And why? I just don't have the drive to do that. It doesn't matter win or lose or whatever. It doesn't matter. And yes, it's about evolving and from your own personal work and seeing others their personal work and seeing it rise to the surface. And yeah, I do. So from a compassion standpoint, I have a great deal of compassion for people everywhere. I think people are in a lot of pain, right? And I think that sorry, I'm outside, so I'm swatting flies. It's summertime.
We
um,
understand.
yeah. So I think people are in a great deal of pain, and I don't think they know how to um, get comfortable around it. I don't think they know how to access it safely, and kind of dig it out and get rid of it. I don't think, our nature is to cover it up and keep moving. And that's really scary for people to take a look at things. And so you see people act out or behave badly or not be able to get a hold of themselves. And, it's different from, we're talking about being reactive, right? And that's being reactive. They can't get to this place of, oh, okay, taking a breath. I tell my clients all the time, nobody's going to see you do it. All you got to do is stop, right? Pause, take a breath in any situation, flies. In any situation, all you have to do is pause, take that breath before you take your next step, right? Nobody saw you do it. Just give yourself that. Or maybe the horse people could um, uh, think of it as sitting a beat, right? When you're in the saddle, in the trot, to pick up that lead, we want to sit a beat and then
Right.
rise,
And then, yeah,
right? So I think about it like that as well. And
sure.
if you can give your body an opportunity to feel that, you can have that be your touchstone every time you start getting to that place where you're about to, uh-oh, come unglued or be triggered or whatever it is.
Mhm.
You can give yourself that opportunity. And it's okay.
Right. I I agree. And it's funny you talk about the breath work. We learn that. I teach that in my inner child healing groups about recognize that that's a trigger coming up, and now also know that it's your limbic brain when you're
Yeah,
triggered that takes over, that fight or flight. So the breathing is going to reset. You're going to hit the
you set
switch
your
and go
nervous
into
system.
your cortex, into the thinking brain. How many times have you lost your cool, blown up at someone, said things you couldn't even remember you said
Yeah,
because you were triggered? And it was, again, you were in limbic. So it was just all emotion, just a fire. And then the next day, you feel remorse for it. So teaching them to create an anchor and do their breathing, after a while the brain feels them create their anchor, which I do on their right hand middle finger
yeah,
inside
yeah,
first knuckle. Take that breath in to the count of 4, hold to the count of 6, release to the count of 4, and do it as until it becomes, after a while the brain feels the anchor, feels the breath, and
yeah,
says, trigger, it's okay, we're calm. And later on you can acknowledge that inner child coming up to fight your battle for
yeah,
you,
yeah,
and show her love, him love and compassion, understanding, and remind the child that you are the adult and you can handle this in an adult manner. So I love that you're doing the same
Yeah.
thing with the, yeah, because it does
Even with,
work.
it does work. And I've used it with, you know, people who have had traumatic riding experiences. And that when they get back
Mm,
in the saddle, what do you have to hold on to? They have to feel into something, right? And so that's a tool that I use for that as well.
sure,
It's huge.
sure. Yeah, you're in the lizard brain.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So it's really interesting, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff. It's really helpful. Um, and it retrains us, like you said. Yep.
We think
Yeah.
about those neural
The
pathways in
neural
the brain.
pathways. Yes.
Yep, no doubt about it. And it's powerful stuff. It really is. And I love that we don't have to remain stuck there. And that as you delve into this beautiful healing work, for me, I can only speak for myself and also the people that I have witnessed.
Yeah.
Um, Things like, all right, I had a very bad relationship with money, food, sex, alcohol. But as I did all this healing work, those things, no, because the triggers aren't there that need to be numbed and medicated,
Right.
the desire for them just left.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. I mean, it's like going in and fishing that stuff out. My horses are all, they all just galloped across. You must have said something good.
I think she said treat.
Yeah, true.
Did someone
Not
say she's got
trigger.
a carrot?
Treat.
I love it. Oh,
Yeah, they're all, wow.
they're
Um,
nosy creatures.
so yeah, but that's a big part of it, right? And I think about it, um, well, it's interesting, right? Because a lot of those things are addictive behaviors that you mentioned. And I think, yeah, I mean, how fascinating is it that you can go in through with Gestalt and, you know, go through and redirect those the neural pathways of the brain, right?
Indeed. And
Through healing trauma.
yes. And this work does have the science
Yep.
behind it, and we
Yep.
can put a link in the description box for anyone that
Yep.
wants to see that science. Do you have that on your website?
I don't have it on my website. No,
Okay.
I don't.
All right. One another interviewee does, but I'll get a link in the description box. And before we go any further into this interview, I just want to remind our audience that all the information regarding Kelly and her practice is in the description box as well as in the comments for you. So if you want to reach out to Kelly, she has a lot of offerings. And with that being said, Kelly,
Yeah.
what do you offer?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I offer one-on-one sessions, one-on-one private Gestalt sessions here at my farm. And I also do women's connection groups. I also offer a teen, I work with teen girls. That's been something that's just kind of found its way to me last year, and it's really lovely. And building teen girl groups, which is also, tricky, but beautiful. I mean, really beautiful having them come and do group work together, right? It's really vulnerable. Grown women, find it very vulnerable. But if we can, man, if I had that opportunity as a teen girl, I could see a lot of the, like just all those self-conscious things that we do, kind of taken off the table.
Hmm.
Subconscious, codependency, all the things, and dealing with the things that, their traumas, right? And yes. So, yes, sorry. I digress. Teen groups, women's groups, one-on-one sessions, and then I do quite a few retreats for women throughout the year.
Where and what do those look like?
Those are really very special to me. they're curated offerings that are really, they stem from, a place of, one is honoring land, relationship to nature and land. Self-care is a huge component to all of the retreats and what that looks like. And so giving people tools to practice self-care starts in my work with the horses and combines with herbalism and plant medicine. How can we take our cues from nature to heal ourselves?
Mm.
Okay, so anything is at those things are added into added into a lot of the sessions that I do here privately as well. So just to give you an idea what that could look like, simply it might be flower essence, which is a really potent, energetic healing medicine from plants, from flowers. And so they correspond with the different things that that person might be feeling. Grief is a big one, right? So if someone's experiencing a lot of grief after a session with my horses, I might give them some rose flower essence that they can take on their tongue, or they can add to a bath, right? Bathing is a really beautiful way to honor yourself and a great self-care practice. So I weave that into my retreats as well. The retreats are held at remote locations to give participants an opportunity to really let go, to really come down and be part of that place, that landscape. Um, they're held in at ranches that share my values, right? Of honoring land, honoring their horses. And it's different. I want to be very careful when I say this, because I have no bad feelings about dude ranches. It's not about that. These are private ranches that are they're small businesses, and they may have um well, it's like this. The food comes from the land, the vegetables, if we have like a lot, some of them are beef or buffalo farmers that have their own um, um, proteins, right? And people can learn about that and have a better understanding of where their food comes from.
Mm.
They, again, are remote and vast, and I like people to really let go and tap into their vision and their values. What is it that stirs them in these places? So it's an opportunity for them to um, remember, I think, remember who they are before all the things happened, remember who they are, or um, kind of, yeah, embrace who they are, find the beauty of who they are in these places. So, yeah, I run a retreat in Colorado down at Ranchlands, which is part of the Nature Conservancy. And it's this, oh my gosh, I can't even, I'll go off on a tangent about these places because they're so breathtaking. I mean, really pinch me every time I go. And the opportunity to share them with people is really special to me. It's very near and dear to my heart, and very important to, um, how I share Gestalt with the world, right? It's about putting it all together for them to experience Gestalt in a place like that, setting them in, a field of like 60 or 70 horses, and, drawing that herd into them through their breath, right? Drawing that herd to them with just their breath. No, like in a
Mm.
place of complete peace and um self-awareness, I guess, that presence. And it's really beautiful to watch them unfold and get to know themselves better in these places that take everything else, off the table. They just have to be there. And it's pretty astonishing. So Colorado Ranchlands is a big retreat. I offer a retreat in Wyoming, out in the Tetons, in the Wind River Valley. that they're just like magic. It's like, really, are you kidding me right now that it's like a painting. It's like walking through.
Mm,
It's so lovely. The horses show up every time. There's
mm,
no, people always ask me, do the horses, they trained to do this? No, this is a horse's natural ability to connect with us and allowing ourselves to slow down and be in this place so that they can see us, receive us. That's what they're responding to. And I think when people go there and they realize that this is what's happening and it's their energy that's driving this connection, man, it's just a really beautiful, life-changing experience for them.
oh,
And then you have women who have all come together holding space for one another, really stepping into the unknown, and that's really beautiful to witness.
mm.
I love that. Watching, witnessing women come together in a safe place, surrounded by all this beauty, and really stepping into it, really doing it, honoring it, and the people around them. It builds lifelong friendships with these women. And they have even if they're not horse owners, right? They have a new feeling, appreciation, sense of longing to want horses in their life. And so I always say it's about shedding a light on the healing capacity of horses for me. That was always my number one, is being able to put that on the forefront, um, so that people have, I think that, yeah, that people have an awareness around how important horses are to us and in the world around us. Yeah.
Yeah. How do these women, when they leave, how do they stay in contact with each other? Like, are they emailing, texting, or do you offer at any point, do you do like a once a year, like Zoom meeting where all your past
I do
participants are able to catch up?
I do love this idea. It's very funny that you mentioned that because we were just out in Wyoming. So like this year it was Wyoming, Vermont, Montana, and then I go to Colorado twice for retreats. Okay. So that's the lineup this year. But when we were in Wyoming in June, there were 3 past participants at this. And in fact, 2 of them have been, or one of them has been to every retreat that I've ever done. And it was a person that I didn't know. I didn't know this person until she came to one of the retreats, but she loves it. You could come to the Wyoming retreat every year and it's going to be different. It's going to be different because of the women that attend. It's going to be different because where you are at in your life at the time, right? So it's really great. But they were saying, you need to have an alumni retreat, right? Just a retreat for the alums to come to. And I thought, man, okay, now you're talking.
I like that. Yeah.
So
Sounds
that
like
may happen. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. But they do contact one another. The people, because the other part of this is that they're from all over the United States. So the retreat might be in Wyoming or Colorado, but people are coming from all over the United States to attend these. And it's really lovely. They'll visit each other when they go to town, right? They'll try to connect with each other. Or sometimes the people that are from, a couple of them were from New England and they all got together for lunch and then went out and did an activity. I love this stuff. I love hearing that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm just going down
My list of
your
things.
list. I love it. All right. What does self-care look like for Kelly? Your self.
For
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah, yeah. For you.
uh-oh, uh-oh.
We
What
want
does
to know.
self-care look like for me? Um, well, self-care always includes my horses for me. It's a place, being in the presence of my horses, um, because they're part of how do I say this? All horses have a really spiritual meaning to me, but my horses here give me an opportunity to recharge, and creativity is really important to me. So when I need to, I don't even know if need to, when I'm in their presence, I go to a place that opens up the doors for my creativity to come through. Um, it comes through in how um, it continues to come through in how I move through the world and the things that I can offer people. So spending time with my horses allows me a deep breath. Um, it's almost dreamlike for me because I can go, how do I say it? The presence of being with them slows me down, reconnects me to the things that are very important to me. Maybe I'll say it like that. Yeah. It reconnects me to the parts of me that are most important to me. And that's self-care. I am outdoors all the time. There's a real longing for that for me. That's part of my self-care. And then I really practice what I preach in this stuff, right? I have like a whole apothecary of herbs and flower essence and different, tinctures and things that I take for myself. Um, I'm trying to practice rest. That's a big one. It's hard, but I'm
I'm sure.
trying to practice rest. It means setting an alarm to go to bed, literally reminding myself that I need to go to bed. It's a big one for women. Big,
Hmm.
big, big. I take a bath once a week. That's something my younger self could never slow down to do. And I tell people the moment that you sit in the tub, do you want to get out? Because that's me. I would want to get out of that tub. I can't lounge in the luxuriousness of it for too long because that's something that I wouldn't necessarily afford myself. Now I do. And at that moment that you want to get out, tell yourself 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes, right? And I bet you'll, come back round a half an hour later and be like, oh, wow, that 10, it's actually half an hour longer or an hour longer or whatever, because it's that breath, right? Or that your nervous system, you're decompressing. So sit a beat.
Sit a beat,
Sit a
bounce,
beat.
bounce up. Now you're
Yeah.
on the right diagonal.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sit a beat.
It's funny you say that about the bath. Now I live in a 400 square foot tiny home now.
Okay.
So I did not have a bathtub, but I went and bought 100-gallon stock tank.
Yep.
And every night I lounge in my Rubbermaid bathtub
Yeah.
outside.
Good for you. We went in 2020, actually 2019, the summer of 2019, I went out and I bought an 8-foot round galvanized stock tank. I threw it out in my garden and everybody was like, why are you putting that in your vegetable? It's like half vegetable garden, half perennial garden, right? I
Hmm.
put it out there and then I got real crafty with it. I put a filter on it, like a little pool filter. And then I got a little craftier and I put a propane heater hooked up to it. So it was like a hot tub. And so in the summer, you'll find me, that's the bathtub, right? And even sit out there and take it all in. In
Hmm.
the fall, I plug in that heater on it and I'm out there, we can't do it in the winter, but I've been out there when the snow was flying. That's self-care though. The
Yes.
soaking, right? That's self-care. And there are things that you can add to your bath, right? Salt, pulling. It pulls all the negative energy away from you. I put like I'll go gather flowers and I'll pour them right into my bathtub. It's a little bit of a strainer nightmare to try, but it's okay. At least at least I
Ah,
did it because I feel great doing it, right? I'll fill that tub up.
yes.
That, yeah. Yeah.
I soak my feet once a week, and I
Good for
actually
you.
uploaded a video yesterday to show people the toxins that were released through the bottoms of my feet. I'm like, I started with clear water and now it's brown
Yep. Yep.
just by
100%.
adding different salts to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Get barefoot.
Oh,
Walk around your yard barefoot.
preach.
Yeah, self-care. It comes in small little ways, right? And has big, potent, powerful effects.
Mhm.
Think of a tiny little flower in a flower essence, right? One flower dropping into, purified water has the potency to help people overcome grief, have them overcome, oh gosh, the list goes on and on and on, or uplift them, right? I need something to feel really happy, or I need to stay away from, um, my stubborn attitude or whatever it is, right? Like my stubbornness, and be more open and receptive. So, yeah, tons of energetics with that.
What
Blades of grass.
what is your flower for happy?
Well, daffodil is a real happy one, right? Got to think about that. Daffodil is a super happy, bright flower to come
Are
into
you saying
play.
you put it in your water and drink it, or what?
No, to make a flower essence, I don't want to sound too woo, but permission is really important. So I do ask permission of each plant before I take a
Absolutely.
sniff of it. And
Absolutely.
I never touch it. I go out with a bowl of purified water. I let that flower head drop directly into the water. It sits, sometimes I'll infuse them with sunshine, sometimes I'll infuse them with moonshine. It depends. And then usually like 24 hours is good. And then I'll strain that water off into like a tincture bottle. You can add a little bit of vodka to hold,
Mhm.
to keep it, or sometimes apple cider vinegar, depending on how long you're going to keep that. And then that tincture, it's a little more, there's a little more to it, but I'm giving you the basics. And then that tincture, you can put droplets on your tongue. You can drop it into water or something that you're drinking. And sometimes I just put them in my bath that I'm having. I take that tincture of flower essence and I bathe in it.
Nice.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate that into your life. I have tinctures in my car, right? So if I'm feeling stressful, I might take a certain flower essence to bring me back to center. Um, and yeah, yep, you can have your own ritual around it. And I think that that's what's really lovely about it too, you know?
Sure. I think this could be another episode, but I would have to come there and film you
Yeah,
because you're speaking my language. I'm that person who at a certain time of the year, I'm in the forest looking for Indian pipe,
yeah, yeah,
mushrooms with my grain alcohol so that because it
yeah,
won't even last from the woods to the car and okay, get you home because I use that for pain and
yeah,
and they're we forget we are so, I don't know, dependent on medicine,
yeah,
pharmaceuticals, and yet where did it all begin?
right.
Truly, it's
Yeah,
nature. And I agree with you. I do not cut a plant, even in my vegetable garden. I ask and I tell it what I'm going to do, and I thank it. It's an honoring.
yep,
Thank you for giving. It's
absolutely.
because it's alive.
It's alive. Yep, it's alive. So that's kind of leans into animistic beliefs, right? If we believe that animism believes that there's a consciousness to all things. And really, when you think of the healing ability of nature, I, I there
Oh,
has to be, right? We could go on and on
absolutely.
around that. There has to be. And the things that I know on my own health journey, the only things that have healed me come directly from the land. come directly from land. So when I came to naming this business, right, what did it mean to me? A Wild Omen really put together the horses as being this, wild, kind of mystical, more like deep horse medicine magic combined with the magic of the land and the things that it has to offer us. What is it telling you? And
Mm,
you really need to slow down to listen.
oh, 100%. I I can
Yeah.
sit under a tree and look up and hear the leaves speaking. There's
Yeah.
such beauty in just looking up and taking that in and feeling them move through you and
Love it.
whisper. And I had a group participant in an inner child healing group that had never, she was in awe after she had been doing her healing work, right? And became just so present, was able to, that she was blown away by the fact that she was sitting outside last winter and the snowflakes. She had never experienced that. She'd never experienced that awe as a child because she was so caught up in her strategy to survive the abuse that she was surviving. That I'm gonna cry.
I
Ah,
know. I know. I know. It's it's real though, right? It's real. And every single person has experienced trauma. Every single person has experienced trauma. It's the degree of trauma that we've experienced, right?
mhm.
So when you take those things into consideration, and well, there's a couple things, trauma, privilege, right? Things like that. But But we are all here and we have the opportunity to take a look at the tiniest thing and give it meaning to us. What's our ritual? What draws us in? What is our what is our totem? What do we hold on to? And I think that, yeah, I and again, I'm saying this as, a 50-year-old woman. I wish I would have known all these things in my younger self, the opportunity to make this work, equine gestalt accessible, available to people so that they can get through these things that are holding them back and onward to their best life,
Mm.
whatever that looks like. If their life is about the opportunity to appreciate snowflakes, great, great, right? They
Oh,
don't have to go on to save the world. It is about taking in and noticing what's around you in your life,
her
right?
whole life unfolded so beautifully after all that work, so much manifestation. And I feel like it began with that snowflake for
Yep.
her. It really did.
So good. I love those stories. I love that stuff. It's possible. It's real. It is. We
We
just,
know it.
yeah, be there and do that. Absolutely.
And because we have experienced it to that level and our clients as well, I think that drives the passion to continue to do this work. It's just, well, it's not work. It really isn't. I always feel
Yeah.
just so, I hear, and I'm sure you do as well, Kelly, with 100 things on your plate and you need an alarm to tell you to go to bed. Go to bed, Kelly. Enough. Shut it off. I relate. And people will say to me all the time, like, oh, you really should think about slowing down a little bit. And it's like, I guess I would think about it if I thought that it was infringing on this is my life. This is
You're driven by the things that you're doing.
right.
I do think that I totally understand. I totally understand that. And I think that they're what would it be like to approach that from a different place? What would it be like to approach it from I'm going to speak for myself, from a softer place, from a calmer place, from a place that wasn't revved up to do it? Could I absorb more from that place that, kind of like took it down a notch, that I went into like a lower gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could I absorb more by doing that?
Of course.
Yeah. So these are things that, that's my practice. There's so many women. I mean, I know that this is the story of women, but that, well, I'll give it to you, that a body in motion set my worth. That was my work. That's my work. And it continues to be. So where do I find the happy place? Can I learn in neutral? I don't know.
I was
Right?
just going
It's
to
a
ask you,
constant
can you?
place. Yeah, it's constant. It's constant. And I think that I have slowed down a lot and I feel good. And it's a reminder that, oh wow, I don't have to do the 25 things. I can do the 3 or 4 things. The question is, who are you doing it for?
Right. And why?
Why?
Or why? And for me, I'm doing all the things I'm passionate about and I
Yeah.
love. There's one little aspect, but I understand there's a part of my life that, I'll be quite honest, literally made me millions of dollars in the
Yeah.
past. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That
Yeah.
is now being transitioned out. So these other things will.
Yeah, you have to open the door, right? And I think that's that place where self-care comes in. Can you do those things? Because those are the things that are feeding your soul, right? That energy and that opportunity to learn and feed it is exciting
Mhm.
and drives you. But what can you do on the other end of it? Maybe it's not about stopping or moderation. Maybe it's about implementing more self-care into your routine, so that
Right.
you can continue to do all those things that you really love to do.
Exactly. And what I
Yeah.
did for me was I minimized my household. So I went from 3,300 square feet to 1,800 square feet to 400 square feet because I know me, 3,300 square feet has to be neurotically cared for. That was me,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Everything in place,
Yeah.
the barn was vacuumed once a week too, and I don't, I made room by minimalizing my life,
Good
my
work.
my my home, and it's perfect for me,
Perfect.
especially at my age. I say my age because I want to go spend time at Kelly's retreats. I want
Yeah.
to be able to do that. That's not going to happen if,
Until you make changes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so interesting to me. What do we need? What do we actually need? Right? It's not, a lot of people tell us, or when you look around, you don't think that you're keeping up with the Joneses, right? But really, this society puts you in a place to do just that.
That,
And so it takes that really important sense of self and knowing to say, well, this is over here is actually what I need, right? And
that.
do it and do it and feed yourself, right? Like really feed your soul. Fill yourself right up with that. It's so important. So good.
Amen.
So good.
Absolutely. I feel like my life is so, so full with so much abundance and blessings, and
Good for you.
it's wonderful. But for others that are caught up in a world of keeping up with the Joneses, I'm sure viewing my lifestyle is probably like, what? You live in 400 square feet? And I'm like, yeah, my wardrobe is so tiny now and I
Yeah.
switch it out, at season changes, and I know exactly what I have, and I don't stress when I open the closet. It's easy to get dressed every day, and because those aren't things that I want to think about anymore. And this is a woman who had 5 closets full of clothing at one point.
Yep. It's
Shoes.
called You're part of the slow living community, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
I was
slow
not
food,
living.
slow fashion, slow. It's important. There's so much waste. There's so
So
many things.
much waste,
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to healing that inner child, Kelly, because she only got one pair of shoes a year.
I know where you're speaking my language. You should see my closet. And I've just gone like on a whole overhaul. I do it every year, but I really went bananas. And it's part of that. It's part of that stuff. So we're always evolving. We're always changing. That we are always doing our work through things like that. That through stuff like that. But I love it. I think, gosh, okay, so this is my human experience, right? Do I need all of these things around me all the time? No, I could be in my underwear and have my horses and be perfectly happy, right? I could be barefoot in my I need
Absolutely.
like a pair, like, yeah, I need an outfit and I'm good. Like when I really boil it down to what makes me happy, I think that's it. Yeah. It's confidence and comfort in your own skin and knowing that you're enough. Are you enough? Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we do have more to talk about, my friend. I don't know how much time you have this morning. I do have a client, I do have a coaching client coming at 1, but we'll get
Okay.
there.
Okay.
But I do want to know for our horse enthusiasts. So we're going to
Yep.
kind of segue out of uh, Gestalt and into you've got 5 horses on your property.
Yep.
So, what are some of your top tips for daily management and horse care? Like they're in your backyard. What are your top tips?
To know the subtleties of each horse,
Okay.
meaning when you wake up in the morning and you greet those horses, that you have an awareness to each horse's, how do I say it? Their personality, their demeanor, if they're off in any way. You'll know your horses. I know if my horse is going to colic because his eye looks just a little different to me. The vet would never know. Nobody would ever know. But I know it's coming because I know there's a little look in his eye that doesn't feel right to me.
Mhm.
Right? Spend time with them. As a horse owner or a barn manager, I would have a baseline temp on every single horse, baseline temperature on every horse. I would make sure that I have Gastrogard, Banamine, right? A whole herbal supply of things, a whole, apothecary of things that I could pull out anytime I needed it. Have that first aid kit ready, and on call. But yeah, I take a baseline temp on every one of these horses. I do it spring, summer, winter, and fall, right? Because their temperatures can fluctuate seasonally as well. But as an example, if you read anything about, if like a temperature in a horse is what, 100 or 101 point whatever, oh my gosh, I sound like a real
Which
pro,
is
right?
no,
Um,
I think they're between 99 to 101 is a baseline,
the
is a typical
baseline.
normal baseline. Yeah.
Right. I know that I have a horse here that if he is 100, I'm calling the emergency. We're in an emergency.
Oh,
We're
wow.
there. But if you read the chart on the normal temperature, right? So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. What is their baseline? What is their emergency call?
Right. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And like you said, you have that connection to each one of your horses. So you know what is normal for them and what isn't their behavior. Like you said, a look in their eye. I had a gelding that I had adopted that came with every idiosyncrasy like known to man. He did it all. He weaved, he paced, he cribbed. I mean, he was a basket case, but he had been locked in a stall for 5 years. So
Okay.
coming to me, I had to feed him halter, lead rope, me in a chair,
Okay.
all his meals, a mash, and a tube of Banamine in my pocket. And same thing. He would get that kind of, he'd almost glaze for a second, like where he'd stop chewing and I'm like, he's going down. He could cause his own mild colic once a week
Really?
just from getting worked up about it's time
Worked
to
up.
eat.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I knew him like the back of my hand. I knew if he was choking and our how we communicated with each other. He liked me to stay very calm,
Yep.
to be there, but to not rush in. Just stand there with him with soothing conversation and keep an eye on him. And then he would stay calm and eventually it would pass
Yeah.
each time.
Absolutely. I say that's a big component too, stay calm, breathe. When I walk into my barn, I take a big deep breath and I exhale completely. I might do it a couple times and then I walk in, because if not, I feel like I'm bringing all that energy with me. The same thing for my husband. Don't you go into my barn until you've taken a deep breath and let it go. Okay. Because he at one point approached the horses very different, right? He might go flying into the barn for something and all that energy was coming with him. He wasn't mad at the horses. He wasn't, but if he had had a bad day or something like that, it just was being brought in with him and they can feel that.
Sure.
So the rule at my barn is you stand out, take a deep breath, maybe 3 or 5, and exhale deeply and then walk in. I would
Absolutely.
recommend that for any boarding facility and any farm anywhere. And
I do it at the facility. We
yeah,
co-op at the boarding facility where my boy is.
yeah,
And right now I'm dealing with horses that they're not mine. I don't have the same connection with them. We're getting there. But
yeah,
as I'm going up the driveway, I'm doing my deep breathing and
yeah,
exhaling to release anything that might be hanging around, any
yeah.
anxiety or stress over anything, and to be able to approach them like discharged of anything
Discharge.
that,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm walking into unknown territory with unknown horses.
It's the same thing. I'd say my top 3 things were, from a first aid standpoint, is to have the baseline temps. If you were at a boarding
Mhm.
facility, I would write my horse's baseline temperature on his stall. A lot of them have stall
Mhm.
plates or in his records. Um, I would always have a first aid kit available, and don't leave it up to anybody else. Have it ready to roll. Um, and the discharge of breath before you walk into the barn, and back to permission. Do not enter a horse's stall unless you have permission from the horse to do it.
Right.
Just don't. It's their space. And I do that by, once again, taking a big deep breath in and out, offering a hand, bowing forward slightly, right? It's like that thing when you want to draw a horse into you, you bow forward a little bit. If he comes to you, great. If he backs all the way up to the other end of the stall, no,
Back
nope,
away.
back
Do not
away.
approach. They're letting you know. But they're so subtle the way they communicate with each other. I mean, they flick an ear,
Yeah,
their body language, and they're so adept because they are prey animals and
yeah,
we're predator. We have eyeballs, on the
yeah,
front of our heads. So the fact that they allow us to interact with them is an honor to begin with. And I agree 100% with the asking of permission.
yeah. Yeah, and that's it. Once you can accomplish those simple little things, right? I feel like your relationship has started.
Uh,
Those things, the
uh,
relationship has started.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's us imposing on them all the things that we need from them, all the things that should be happening, all the things.
And like children that are not seen or heard, a horse can feel the same way. You're not reading me, you're
Yeah,
not hearing what I'm trying to tell you, you're not asking, you don't respect me. There's a
yeah,
mutual respect there. I mean, I can go out and lay in the pasture with my horse and he'll lay down with me and I feel just so safe. And I
yeah. I love
would
it.
I suggest anybody just go and do that without that? Probably
No,
not. They,
no.
I know the damage they can do, but again, I have taken the time to build this
Yeah.
relationship with this boy that
Yep.
is, we
It's
are the best
beautiful.
buddies, you know? We
It's
really are.
beautiful.
Yeah, and he'll tell me like there's days we did a lot of trail stuff over the winter into spring and early summer. And there were days where he was like, "Yep, yep, you can ride me. That's fine." Right. And then there were days where I was like, "No ride today." I go, "But Fatty, you and Mom, we need to get on the trail anyways." And he's like, "Yeah, I want to go because I want to go with my girlfriend Minta." I'm like, "All right." So we would hike. I put all his
Nice.
gear on him and then, yep. And then off we'd go and we would hike for hour and a half, 2 hours just together
So
as
great.
friends. He loved that. He was like, "I
Loved it.
hiking with you, right, Mom? I'm a
Yeah.
hiking buddy."
Yeah. They love that stuff. That's connection, right? You're on their level. Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's the
Indeed.
scoop. So great.
Yeah.
So great. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Is there anything as we draw close to the end of this beautiful encounter that you'd like to add?
I could, there's so many things I can add about the work, but um
Feel free. We'd love to
oh
hear it.
my oh gosh. Well, there is one component to it. You can cut this out. Do you have time for this part?
I do.
There is one component that I like to touch on, and that's that um consent. Obviously, I've talked a lot about permission, right? But consent is one of the most important parts of my business, my practice, consent from the horses. And that while I am available to people and while I want to do as much good in the world and help people in any way that I can with, through equine gestalt, there are moments when, as a person who, with a deep connection to my horses, if I feel that the work is too much, or if I feel that, if someone is requesting a horse to work with and I know that that might be too energetically much for them, then we don't do that horse. We don't do that, right? The horses are really driving the bus on this work for me. I never use a horse. They step up for it. And I think that's a really important component to this. And at any point in a session, if they need to check out, they do. They
Mhm.
will.
I love it.
They can come back into it, but I work in a big open space, I work in a pasture. So it's very evident, very obvious that my horses want to be part of the session. They could be eating grass. They could be like running around doing whatever they want, but they choose to be in the session. 99.9% of the time, they're going to do that. But they always have the opportunity to say no. They always have the opportunity to step back from it. And I will honor that as one of the main, tenets of my approach to Gestalt in this, right? That they get to choose first. So I just wanted to add that into
Glad
it
that
because,
you did. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, it's well, for instance, my horse right now has asked to not do this work, and he's great with me at it, but what he has shared with me is that he just really needs this downtime because of so many transitions that he and I have had to make, that
Good
he
for
just wants it to be about us. So I do not ask him to do anything at all.
I
He'll
love it.
observe once in a while, but I never ask him to do anything other than if you're curious and you want to watch, that's fine. But most of the work isn't even done where he's at.
Isn't
Most of
that
the work that I do right now. I had 4 horses. I only have him now. So it's not like somebody can volunteer out of the herd, like, no, take me. And
something will happen.
it,
Yeah.
it used to be Ty, the one that came to me with all the the
Yep.
stuff going on. It used to be him. He loved it. He could pick somebody out of a crowd like, oh, that human needs me right now. I am making a
Yeah,
beeline.
yeah.
I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you are like so drawn to this work. But, and Dakota, he was, but he's not there right now. He really has had to do so many transitions, and I have to and will honor his wishes. He may never want to come back to it, and that's okay.
That's okay. I
That's
think
okay.
that that's a really big part of this, right? And to be aware of it and be able to honor that. And I can tell you that as a to tie this in, I noticed when I first started doing the work that I would have a client, and a couple days before she arrived, sometimes even the night before that client arrived, her work, that that client's work would start showing up in my chakras.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. So I knew when that person sat down, I started piecing it together. Oh, this is where the work is, right? Because
Mm.
of my actual body was reacting to their work. That made it very clear to me how the horses respond in this work because they are even more sensitive, right? And I have had horses. I have a horse here that Safari, my mare. I realized that she only showed up for people in deep grief. And the grief was very specific. It was around the loss of a child every time. She would bang at the stall. She would try to get out of the paddock to come over to greet somebody who was coming in. And instantly I knew what type of work we were going to do. I had to put all the other horses away. Safari went to work. She does not get involved in any Gestalt sessions other than that. I can't figure it out, but that's it.
They're
One day,
amazing.
one day recently, I got a call from someone who wanted to come have a session with me, but wanted to do a telephone call first, a 15-minute discovery call to really tell me in depth what this was about. At 3 o'clock on the nose, Safari dropped down to her knees and fell to the ground, fell flat out on the ground, moaning. I stopped. I didn't do the session with the lady. It was a phone call. I couldn't do it. I tended to my horse immediately. I called the emergency vet. I gave her Banamine instantly. I went into emergency mode, right? 15 minutes later, at the exact time that that conversation would be over with, my horse stood up, shook, did a deep exhale, and walked off.
Oh my gosh, you made my hair stand up on my arms.
That horse has never colicked in the entire time she's been with me, 15 years, is never colicked, never thought about colicking. She presented, in my opinion, I thought my horse was dropping down and colicking, right? Heavy breathing, like laborious breathing, nostrils flaring.
Pulling.
I'm like, oh God, we're in sweat. No, the telephone call with the woman is about her several losses of children in either miscarriage or childbirth.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
That's
they read humans. Oh my gosh. I
it's
had a
real.
mayor. Yeah. I had a mayor that connected with this one woman every week, just really connected, really connected. And it was odd because my mayor and myself felt the energy change. It got so dark all at once from this woman. I mean, really. And I looked at my mayor's face, and all of a sudden she pinned her ears and got this, and it unnerved me. But I read her, and I grabbed this woman's hand and I said, come with me right now. And we exited out of
Good.
the paddock. And
Yeah.
when we got to the outside of the gate and she said, what happened? I said, I don't know what transpired in there, but both my mare and myself felt a very dark, dark energy come up. And I needed to keep you safe because Luna was very upset about something. And I don't know what that is. And I'm not going
Yeah.
to, grill you about that. But I know what my horse, and she was like, wow, thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe.
Yeah. I might do like I not invite that woman to the farm, but I want to help her. So maybe I'll do phone coaching with her that would try to help
Right.
her. And maybe when she releases some of the energy around this, she can have a really deep healing with the horses after she's let it go. But my horse sensed it over the phone, right? Yeah. So I I just like, have to believe that. I called the vet and I was like, you can turn around. She's
Fine.
like,
Yep.
Kelly, really? I'm gonna come. I'm gonna check all her vitals. She's like, she's 100% okay, Kel. She's totally fine. Well, if you would have seen her at 3 o'clock, you would not have had that opinion.
Oh my gosh.
It's really fascinating to
It
me.
is.
So, I can't deny. I can't. It's undeniable.
It
Yeah.
is. Or the
And
time I woke up from a sound sleep in the afternoon, Kelly,
yeah,
and I was like, somebody's hurt. Like, boom, out of a sound sleep. And I ran down the stairs and I ran to the back door, and three of the horses were in the upper paddock grazing. And here comes Ty, lame, coming up the alleyway.
really.
He
Action.
energetically
Yeah.
told me, Mama, I'm in trouble. A sound sleep. I woke and my stomach hurt. Like I was just like, and ran down the stairs and ran to that back door. And I'm like, oh my God, Carl, we've got to go right now. Grab this, grab that. Let's go.
Yeah. That's how it happens. That's it. Yeah. So that's your connection for sure. I believe all of that stuff because it's happened,
Mhm.
you know, it's happened before. Well,
Ooh,
good. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there about consent and about, yeah, so that people are aware. It's not like going to a therapist where every person that sits in the chair, um, yeah, like my, how do I say that? My openness and availability for a client will always be there, but my horses get to choose. That's how it works.
thank you for that. I love hearing that.
Yeah. And no offense. And there's nobody should feel, there's nothing anybody should take out of that other than not today.
Right,
Right?
right. It's not that they don't like you. They're just,
Yeah.
they're not, it's not,
Don't hold on to
that's
that
fine.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Here we are.
Here we are.
Thank
Lots of
you.
stuff we covered. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
love it. And I've got a few people that I know for sure will be checking this out that are seeking more information about this work that quite
Nice.
possibly want to get into the program as well. So I think this has also been quite enlightening for those individuals. And for our audience, I just want to remind you again that all of Kelly's information and her practice, A Wild Omen, is in the description box as well as in the comments. So, what is the best form of contact is there one that you prefer over another? Or
Yeah, I mean, I really update my Instagram page. It has the most information on it at all times. And there's a link on there that they could sign up for mini retreats or retreats, get information on it. And it's also linked to the website. So there's a wealth of information on the website. But to stay really tuned in to day to day, that Instagram account is a really great way to stay connected.
excellent.
Yeah.
And can you provide me with that Instagram
Yeah,
link?
it's a wild omen, a wild omen on Instagram. You'll know there's a million horse pictures.
I love
But
it.
yeah, there's lots
Beautiful.
of info.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for taking
Thank
the time
you.
out of your what I know to be extremely busy schedule. You might have to stay up a little bit later tonight
Yeah.
to make up for the 2 hours that you lost here, but we so appreciate your time,
Um,
your input, and you. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for being a guest on the Backyard Horse Enthusiast.
Thanks so much, Kimber. It was really great. It was great to talk to you. Thank you.
You.